I even saying these words kind of gets me a little bit. I can't imagine what she has gone through in her life. Oh gosh, here we go. uh, ALS are three letters that no family ever wants to hear. But what do you do if you hear those letters? And worse off, what do you do if you hear them more than 8 times? Yeah, more than 8 times. Our next guest, Lora, lost her grandfather, 2 aunts, and 2 cousins to ALS. And she has 2 more cousins currently battling the disease now. She is all too familiar with this disease. And despite being surrounded by familiar ALS, which is extremely rare, by the way, she could have never anticipated what was to come in 2017. On her birthday in 2017, her husband and the love of her life was diagnosed with ALS. Kevin lost his battle with ALS in 2019, just over 2 years after diagnosis. Here to share her story and Kevin's journey, please welcome Lora McKee.
Hi, you guys. Hi, Season. Thank you. Chris did such a good job. Really hard to follow that.
I don't know where to begin with this. I mean, we talk, so ALS hits anybody, anytime, but it's so darn sporadic. And in fact, about 90% of ALS is completely sporadic. It's only about 5 to 10% that is familial. And you have it. I mean, this is insane. How many people in your family have ALS? I mean, what does ALS mean in your family?
Well, it doesn't have the greatest meaning. I tried to come up with an acronym that it would be, but I can't. But you can imagine my shock when my husband was diagnosed, and we giggled a little bit to say none of our family is even going to believe this. Like, not that they would consider us to be, fabricators, but, it was like, we just thought my husband was suffering with a back injury from being, late 40s and being in agriculture and farming, and probably not in shape. I mean, of course not. As we get a little older, we're not the family that's running the 5Ks. So we knew instantly that this was just, how can this be? Yeah. And I remember the day that he was diagnosed, and when initially it was just Kevin with his doctors, and when they called me back, it was kind of it was not a joke, but they made a joke to say that they kind of quickly did some statistics that said it was 1 in 99 billion that my family would have the gene, and then I would marry a guy that ends up developing ALS. That's the sporadic type. So the joke a little bit was like, maybe you should play the lottery because your odds are better. Now, we did play the lottery that day, and we didn't win.
Yeah, but you know what? You won the love lottery. I know that's so corny to say, but
thank you.
I mean, yeah, tell me about Kevin. Tell me about how you guys met, or a little bit about what kind of man he was.
Well, first, he was a giant teddy bear, and so we used to laugh and from having pet names to each other to having very much a Cub-Cardinal rivalry. I'm the big Cub fan. He's the St. Louis Cardinal fan, and we knew that on date 1. So we used to joke and say truthfully that we had 2 first dates. So we met in 2007 at Match.com. And then because we both were living in small towns, lo and behold, we ended up meeting at a bar, which we didn't even know each other. And I so wish he was here to hear this story, because he put his foot in his mouth, because he said he could not wait to make a trip to Wrigley Stadium. Now, if you're a Cub fan, you're just laughing your head off going, what? Well, tell me, have you ever been to Busch Field? Well, and lo and behold, it was the same guy that I was talking to online. We just hadn't met each other. And he was randomly at this bar in this small town, and that's where I was at too. So we kind of put 2 and 2 together that night and laughed. We laughed about it forever, that we had two first dates.
Oh, and you know what? And you still went on another date with him even after, as a Cubs fan. He didn't.
I did, and everybody teased us, and we got married, and it was the Cub Cardinal series and stuff, and people teased us, and I was like, well, I knew it going into it. And when you live up in Northern Illinois, you don't see a lot of Cardinal games on TV unless they're playing the Cubs. So I was lucky there not to have too much Cardinal in my face.
That special. This is that you could. There's not many people you can look the other way for if they're not Cubs fans as well. But we will for
Yeah.
him. We will for Kevin because
Yeah,
he's
for
that
sure. And he was
special.
a very good baseball fan. He was a good sport fan. So that was a lot easier for him. So and he was very humble about it. I wasn't humble about it. I was always, smudging a Cubs.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can't even believe the odds you though just said. My head's still reeling about that. The chances of anyone being diagnosed with ALS, but that many times in your family, that's insane. That's so insane.
Yeah, and my first exposure to ALS when I was about 8 years old, and my Aunt Mary, who was my idol and my mom's oldest sister, and um, she started to develop the symptoms. So my grandfather that had it, I mean, he passed away before I was even born when my mom was just a teenager. So, I kind of knew about it, but I was 8 years old when Mary was diagnosed. And then watching her progression, she was my favorite. And she was a farmer's wife, always had the big dinners, made everything from scratch, like going to her house for meals was like an event. And I still remember it all. And they lived on a dairy farm, and as a kid, going to a farm was a really big deal. So watching her and my mom telling us what her disease was, my mom would keep us posted just to not alarm us as kids, my sister and I, like, hey, Mary no longer walks, or Mary's 100% in a wheelchair now. And then all the way up until, Mary was bedridden, and Mary died. It was super traumatic because she was my favorite in the whole world, and her kids were my pride and joy too, my cousins, and I was so blessed. But that was my first knowledge of ALS. And then continuing on, you would hear some random people and maybe a celebrity or so. And then my cousin Joe was diagnosed, and Joe was 2 years older than me. And he was diagnosed at 28. And that blows your mind a little bit too, because 28, like my aunt was 43, Joe's 28, and it was just really shocking. And he got his diagnosis after a kind of a back injury after like falling off a roof or something, like shingling and kind of losing balance and slipping. So, it was like there was always kind of a something or an injury or something that kind of turned my family a little bit more to focus it. But with Kevin, my husband, I never in a million years thought that he had ALS. We thought, again, he was out of shape, overweight, pushing 50 years old, tired, working on the farm and throwing bales of hay around or bales of seed and jumping in and out of a tractor, probably, not lifting with the legs. I don't know. So he was just kind of nursing a bad back, and physical therapy would help him, massage therapy would help him. But, that day of, I really did assume we were going to get a surgical appointment, and we were going to go in and do some back surgery and heal him up by summer and get him back in the field by fall. And when they gave us the diagnosis of ALS, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And my dad was actually in the waiting room, and I came out and got him, and the tears are flowing, and he was like, no, because he knew all about it too. So it was like, it's so crazy. How can this be?
Yeah, it can present so differently, and it's always such a different story to diagnosis every single time. Everybody's story that you hear is so different. And there are often those those accidents or an injury that are tied to it, because it can sneak up and come in so small, it's so strange. And it's always such a frustrating, it's such a frustrating road to diagnosis, or it's like hidden behind one of these accidents or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it was for our family too. So, and again, to know Kevin, he probably had the symptoms that he didn't want anybody to fuss over him. And I know it was a true testimony of how much he loved other people more than himself, which was super true he was. But he didn't want you to fuss over him. He didn't want you to wait on him or worry about him. He wanted to worry about you. So I think he had this and the symptoms a lot longer than he let on to.
It's hard. When it comes in so small and so tiny, it's hard to know when to say, hey, something's going on, or not wanting to admit it for sure.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
gonna sneak back into the background now that Susan's here. I'll be here to jump in just in case.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam. I love that you just dived in and took over. Sam's a rock star. Sorry, guys. Internet, I don't know what's going on, storm. But
Don't worry about it.
I'm so mad I missed what you were talking about. But did she get into? I want to know. You and I talked on the phone, and you had made this really great comment to me that stuck with me. That you hated to be a caregiver, but you loved him more.
I did. I truth be told, I say I hated being a caregiver. Hated it, just because I didn't know. I didn't know what to do, and his progression required him for about the last year to be 100% bedridden. He couldn't get up for showering, bathroom, or anything. And I mean, I'm a finance girl. I have an MBA. I have no idea how to take care of somebody. I really didn't even know how to put a thermometer in and, push the button. That's how green I was. So with all of that, I just had to take care of him. He deserved it. And everybody deserves dignity. And that's what I wanted to help preserve for Kevin, is just dignity. And I was scared that he would kind of give up if he didn't have good care. And I know that sounds weird because he wasn't anything fancy or frilly, but he didn't want to be a pain for anybody. So we made it a game. We had a lot of fun with it, and I relied on people. So whether it be my dad, and God bless him, because he lives a mile down the road and he was at my beck and call all the time. And Kevin and my dad were best friends, and my dad gave us his all. So whether it be 2 a.m. and we need help, or it was before he was bedridden and kind of transporting him from a wheelchair to a bathroom. I mean, my dad mastered it safely. And my dad now is 76 years old, and I kind of cringe a little bit thinking that he was doing that, but yet my dad didn't want to give up control either. So he wanted to take care of him. Yeah. Which means the world to me. So Mondays and Fridays, I was able, thankful for my company that would allow me to work from home. Those days he had his nursing care. So he had a bath, he had, the nurses would check on him. He would have some medical procedures or whatever. So I was able just to work in their home office and still keep the lights on, so to speak, keep the insurance paid. And my dad would check in all the time. And then Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we reached out to family friends. And I'm not a shy person. And I definitely believe that when people truly say, what can I do for you? How can I help? If you're specific and ask them, most people love to help. And I had several angels that helped us, that kind of helped every Tuesday, was really the same lady, Diane, and she was a good family friend. And I always joke that between Tuesdays and Thursdays, who was Donna, and Donna was a family friend also that was semi-retired, but really kind of bored and needed something to do. And so I attracted her to come over, and she was an amazing cook. All these ladies were great cooks. And I joked and said that Kevin had this love affair with these 70-year-old ladies who would help him and could take care of him and could help him. Again, he was bedridden, but it was more camaraderie. It was more, feeding him, and he developed such great fondness for these ladies. Now, Wednesday was kind of fun because it would either be my dad or a couple of my uncles or a couple of the guys from the coffee shop. So I used to joke and say that his babysitting would be, kind of tied to sports or who was in the town. And, nobody had to do much more than, hold the drink for him or help him eat. The rest of the stuff was taken care of by my dad and I. My older sister also just lives a mile down the road, and she was at my beck and call all the time. And I think it was necessary for me to have the sanity, to have other people around, but I couldn't say more about them. I owe all of those caregivers my life. And the association kind of led us to a lot of it to say, you got to be specific, and you got to say, here's what I need help with. I really could use help grocery shopping. Some people like to do that.
I mean, people, when they reach out, they mean it. They want to be there, and being specific is so important because, people don't know what exactly you need, and it really, I don't know, moments like this do bring the village together, especially you said Kevin wasn't ready to be like cared for. Like, it's just so good that, you know, these people come out of the woodworks and that your family was there to support too. It's just,
Yeah, and at the same time that this is going on, I mean, Kevin passed away in November of 19, and at the same time, for 6 months earlier, I have a first cousin that was going through and had some carpal tunnel surgery that wasn't healing, and her diagnosis at the end was ALS. So it's like we've got all these emotions going on, and on top of everything that I said about the people that were helping, I also had people that kind of help overnight. And I would have them come over. They would just come and have dinner with us and spend the night. Sometimes they would get a good 8 hours worth of sleep. Sometimes they were up a few times because I just needed the help and moving him and rotating him and all of that. And my cousin Denise was one of those people that gave us her time. And then for us to know, and Kevin did know before he died that she had ALS, it's hard. It's very much a heartbreaking story. And how can Kevin then repay somebody when she's going through it too? So we just, you just kind of make do, and you just, you praise God for the days you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Susan, welcome back.
And I'm so sorry, guys. All in the name of live TV. You never know what's going to happen. So if I go out again, I love that Sam's got the reins and she can just jump in and keep going with this. But Laura, I want to talk to you. So please, internet, work with me because I want to talk to you. I don't know if you hit it already. I mean, just talking about what you've been saying about Kevin in the community. I mean, we talked about this. Who's your hero? Who's your hero in life right now?
Well, now this is going to make me cry a little bit, so I'll try to hold my composure. But to have the family support with my dad and sister, they're by far my heroes. So, and I can see Peggy and Julie, they're chiming in and stuff, and we were able to be the chosen family in 2018 to go to Washington D.C. and lobby with our congressman about funding and releasing that waiting period for benefits and stuff. So, my dad is often a jokester and he's often a clown, but he's the most sensitive, loving man you will ever meet. And you're not going to cry alone with him. So as much as he's a tough guy, he was at our beck and call 24/7. And the same with my sister, and she maintained a full-time job, but she had Thursday nights and she would be with us, be with Kevin, and just be like, you know what, Laura, you need to shower, you need to go to bed. And was really part of his religious faith too. So my sister was very much would bring him, communion to home and have a little church service with him and pray with him, which was really important to Kevin. And she then got the nickname, and it's so funny, and I know she'll be giggling when she sees this, but Sister Ann. And it's not just because she's my sister, but she's really a devout religious woman that really wears it and likes to share it. And Kevin loved it. So my dad and sister, I don't know where I would be without them, and they helped me in this journey, and I couldn't do it without them.
Oh. And Kevin, I mean, we had talked on the phone, like the strength that he had. You guys had such a humor about everything, which I think is so. But you were cracking jokes about it on the phone when we were chatting. What was that acronym? I don't have it with me that you were talking about. You guys had some code with each other.
It was PETA. So Kevin didn't want anything that was a PETA. So if it was a pain in the ass, he didn't want to do it. So he did the infusion for a while, for about a year, and then it became a pain in his ass. And he's like, nah, I'm done. Whether or not he would get haircuts regularly. And then it was so funny, like the week before he died, he got this wild hair, that he wanted a haircut and he wanted me to shave his head. And I don't know why he wanted me to do it. I'd never done it before in my life. But my cousin Wendy and I attempted it. And I mean, good thing he didn't see the mirror because it was crazy. And he's like, my head is all the time. It's a PETA, shave it. So that was our joke. So, we made a lot of humor. He would joke a lot. I think it's just a good mechanism for us. We also knew what the end result was. So we can joke all we want, but we didn't know anybody that had ALS that lived a long time. I did have an older cousin that was on a ventilator and had the trach and stuff, and he did live a really long time. And Kevin didn't want that, and he knew it from the get-go. He didn't want to preserve his life. He just wanted to make the best of it. So I think that says a lot about the man that he was, and he wanted to be, he wanted to care for us. And he said, hopefully I can get to heaven, and as soon as I do, then I'll turn around and watch out for you.
I was gonna say, I think it's so amazing that he just had this attitude, and you guys were very open, and you were very open with me about how, like you said, you knew what the end result was going to be, and there's no what if maybe we could beat this. That's not in the cards right now for ALS. So when you were so open about what was coming, what the future was going to hold, what did Kevin want his legacy to be?
Well, earlier when Chris was talking, the question was, somebody had asked, does Chris have a bucket list? And Kevin didn't really have a bucket list for life, so to speak, but he did have one for me. He does have one for me, and he worked with his best friend Mike down in St. Louis, and he's like, you know what? He kind of gave them some orders too, fun and poke and fun, to be like, you know what? Just keep Lora when you travel, because we had traveled with them before, and their kids are my kids, and all of that. So he wanted me to do some home remodel. He wanted me to fix the furnace and get a new one, like those kind of fun bucket lists. But he wanted me to travel. I haven't done too much of it. Kevin passed away before COVID, like 2 months before. So if there's a small silver lining, which is so weird, but like he didn't even know what the word COVID meant. And I'm so grateful, because we had a revolving door in our house of people coming and going and seeing, whether it be our hospice nurses and our team and the social workers, etc. Nobody even rang a doorbell. And I would be so sad if we didn't have that excitement for Kevin on a day-to-day basis for him. And even the morning that he passed away, there was about 8 of us really close people, friends and family, and my sister and dad. We held his hand with him and we're there with him. And you wouldn't have had that luxury with COVID.
It's true. I mean, you were talking about the moment. I mean, it's a little hard to even have to sit here and talk about the moment that your husband passes away, because this is not how life is supposed to work out. But you said it was so beautiful that you guys got to just kind of close your eyes and fall asleep together.
It really was like that. So it was he passed away on Thanksgiving, and the day before, in my little town, and I live about 90 miles west of Chicago in a town of 5,000, for whatever reason in our subdivision we didn't have electricity all day. And I can't even remember why. I think there was a car accident and it kind of hit a pole. But I was pretty good friends with the fire chief who lived in our neighborhood, and they had been to our house many times for falls and lift and assist. And I made the call to the fire station and said, we need a generator, at least to keep his bed moving. He wasn't on any oxygen at that time or anything like that, but just to keep it comfortable. And it's cold. It's the middle of November, end of November. I mean, it's 40 degrees out. And we had a little portable heater, and the fire department was there and they took care of it. But what was really cool, and I don't think there was any pictures that were taken, because the moment just didn't need it. But if you can just picture yourself in November, it's 40 degrees out, the sun sets pretty early, 5 o'clock. We had candles burning in the house all around. So in the bathroom, kitchens, around Kevin, and the smell is great. And there's a few people. We know the end is coming. He's not awake at this time. His pain is managed. The house couldn't have been any more beautiful. And it was just time for people to hold his hand and, to say their last goodbyes and just to love on him. And it was super cool. I was so blessed. And when a couple of his friends from out of town had made it to the house, I knew that Kevin could hear. And I had said, we have nicknames for each other. He called me Lou, and I called him Fred. And I said, hey, Fred, can you hear me? Can you give me a kiss? And he did. He could pucker up, and he gave me a kiss. And I just looked around and made sure that other people saw it so they didn't think I was wacky. But, he did, and I held his hand, and we all relaxed that night, and a couple people kind of slept vigil next to him. And about 4 a.m, he passed away. But he wanted the house to settle down before he did. So it was really bittersweet, but it was super cool that I think somebody got up to go to the restroom, and then they checked on him, and he had passed, but he had just passed, and it was really just peaceful. Like his greatest people, his greatest friends, his family were here. We had a lot of laughing. We had a few tears, and he was no longer in pain.
It's true. You beat me to the punch because you had told me that story and I was bawling like a baby on the phone. But I think it's one of those, especially the way you said it, Kevin he was very peaceful, but he was out of it. He didn't know what was going on. He was asleep. He wasn't in any other way really responding to anything. So the fact that you had this, I mean, I'm calling it a miracle, 100%, because to have him out of it like that, and this is starting a chain reaction. To have him out of it and then be able to just tell him to give you a kiss. He heard everything that was going on. He was still there. He wanted to make sure you were okay. He wanted everyone to know that he loved you and that he was going to be in peace.
Yeah, for sure. I totally believe that.
Yeah, true. And speaking of miracle, to try to get myself together here. You were talking about signs, and I know you had said that you guys joke with each other and you kind of tease each other, but you told him, when you go, you better give me some signs. You better be up there in heaven giving me some signs.
That's right.
You even made the comment like a stupid butterfly or something.
Right. Don't come back as a stupid butterfly. I'm not going to pay attention to it. Come back. It's going to slap me in the face and be like, this is Kevin. I'm paying attention to you. What are you doing? And all of that stuff. And, I think as time progresses, I open my heart and my memories become less sad and they become happier. And, I'll see him. And I do take him with me. This is my fat head. And I feel like when we go to baseball games or events or whatever, it's really important to have him with us. And he has ended up in great places. Cubs games, the auto show, the ALS fundraiser, he was there. And, just different wine and cheese events and Christmas and all of that stuff. So I bring him with me. And if I forget him, man, it's kind of a heartbreak.
Kevin's everywhere. I love this. I love that Kevin even gets to make an appearance on the show tonight too. Kevin's been on season Sunflower Hour.
Yep, exactly.
I love it. But I think I told you this the other day. I think he's given you a lot of signs, but I think he gave you one big sign because the night before, so we actually talked on the phone prior to this. I just wanted to sort of get to know you and get to learn a little bit more about you. And you said that he came to visit you the night before that.
It was the first time. So in a year and a half, he came to me in my dream, and it was nothing bad. It was just him in my dream. And I said that it was probably, season, kind of forcing me to talk about it a little bit. And it's okay. I'll talk about him anytime. He was a beautiful man inside and out. And I'm so lucky that he chose me to be his wife, and to have him in my dream was just super peaceful.
See, he's there. He's there reminding you, don't you ever forget that fat head.
That's right, exactly. And he's got a lot of signs. And, as far as funny things that it'll, drive into my back a little bit, or, some jewelry that I'll wear once in a while, or something like that. His goal, he had a lot. Like I say, the bucket list was really stuff for me to do. He wanted me to stay involved. He wanted me to help others. He wanted me to keep giving, to find comfort in this disease. He believed, and I do too, the contributions that Kevin and Lora make, we're not going to cure ALS. But we are going to make it just a little bit easier for another family. That's our goal. Together, that was our goal.
And we are going to cure it, because we're not going to stop until we do. And you're right, it might not happen tomorrow, it might not happen next month, but we are going to keep fighting. We're going to keep Kevin's fat head there with us.
That's right. I can't wait.
But you've been through a lot. Yeah, we're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate with Kevin and all the other families. But you've been through so much. What would you say to families right now, people that are watching that have a loved one that's diagnosed with ALS? What would you say to them?
Oh boy. Okay. The first thing I would say is don't panic. And the other thing I'm going to say is do not solve a problem until you have it. And those are words that my dad still impresses upon me. Like your head goes all the way to the end. When he was diagnosed, it was right when Radicava was coming out for infusions, and it was clumsy. And if you were, I mean, I know it's so much easier now, but the insurances didn't play well. Everybody, it was always a no. It was always, scary. It was going to be $40,000 a month, all of that stuff. And it's just a scare tactic. And I feel that is the lack of knowledge made me grumpy, and it panicked me. Like, I can't believe at 40 years old, this disease that Kevin didn't even ask for is going to bankrupt us. It wasn't like that. So to slow down, to don't solve a problem till you have it, use your resources and take one step at a time. You cannot do it alone. Swallow some pride and ask for help. Ask somebody to do your laundry. Ask somebody to go to the grocery store for you. I hated that, going to the grocery store, by the way. So I was like, that, God bless anybody is able to help there. So, but just go moment by moment, and do not look too far in the future, because you're not going to like what you see. I mean, when he was diagnosed, the next week, when we started to tell people, I mean, it looked horrible. And the first year it looked horrible. And his end result still looked horrible. And I'm only saying that because, nobody comes out of this, cured yet. So stay in your moment and get through today. And sometimes I couldn't really look past Tuesday.
Oh, Peggy chimed in, just basically how much she loves you. I love this, that you are such an advocate for this community. And I mean, another thing that you and I get to talk about on the phone, it's like, I think that the initial instinct is, why? Why does this have to happen? Because this disease sucks, and we wouldn't wish it on anybody, but why isn't it happening to maybe the worst people in the world? It's not. It's always happening to the best people in the world. But it's this right here. It inspires people like Kevin. They're inspiring in you, they're inspiring the people around them, the advocacy, and to stand up and to want to fight and find a cure. And you know what? If it wasn't happening to such incredible people, there wouldn't be that inspiration to make a change and to do something positive with it. So thank you for just taking on this horrible, horrible disaster and turning it into something really beautiful.
I have met some of the most amazing people during this journey, so Peggy, for being, I mean, she was my caseworker from the beginning. We couldn't have had a better alliance. And, still to this day, we just checked in on each other last week, and it's more than just a generic, hi, how are you? It's so much genuine. Last year for the ALS walk, when we weren't able to do, the big one, we did one in our neighborhood with our family and friends, and Peggy was able to make it, and we did. Kevin was there with a fat head, and about maybe 40 of our family and friends, and we just walked the neighborhood, and we just kind of had a moment and remembered Kevin, and that's what he would have wanted. First of all, he would not have wanted to go to Chicago because that was a PETA for him, but he would have definitely loved just trolling around in the neighborhood and come on back to the house, have a few beers. That was who he was. He was your fun guy that you'd want to drink a beer with. And I'm grateful to the association and anybody that needs help. I mean, if you just don't even know, myself included, I didn't know what I didn't know, but I just knew I'm going to get through this and I'm going to help another person. So if anybody listening needs just an ear to bend, I have had so many great people listen to me, and I'll listen to them too, and I'll just give them the push in the right direction. But that's what the association does too.
Seriously, thank you for everything you've done, especially in Kevin's name, and for being such a great part of this family. And I hate that you're in it, but I'm glad that you're in it. I'm really glad.
I would be remiss too. I do have to give one more shout out if I can, but it was the association. We were diagnosed in Madison, Wisconsin. So from about our house, it's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. And we were encouraged to change over to the ALS clinic in Rockford, Illinois, where Dr. Sean Wollery was at. And because things began, Kevin liked his team at Madison. They were amazing. we were in a different state, so we had a different ALS or association instead of, they had Wisconsin. So and they needed to serve Peggy and crew needed to serve us since we lived in Illinois. And everybody had said it. And the first day that we met Dr. Woolery, he really did transform this disease from a panic stricken to we're going to get you through it. And he addressed pain management right away. And him and Kevin formed a bond instantly. And I am saddened that they closed the clinic. I blame that it was they closed the clinic in Rockford, Illinois after Kevin died. And I was like, wow, that's funny what an impact Kevin had. No, I'm just kidding. But Sean Woolery couldn't have been any better of a doctor. I do feel if anybody can, reach him or send this to him, please do, because he is not any better of a friend, a colleague, and he made house calls and he checks on me once in a while too. And there's no better guy in the world. And if anybody's going to cure ALS, I'll tell you what, that guy right there is going to do it. And I love him with all my heart.
Well, that's a testament. That's a testament to you and Kevin to inspire that kind of love out of people. So I love that. We know we're gonna take it home tonight, but as we head out, we know that Kevin's here because his fat head's here, but we do know that he is here and he is listening to all of this because that miracle again, that chokes me up every time. But we know he's here. So what do you want to say to Kevin?
Oh gosh, well I think I said it before. I'm so glad that he chose me to be his wife, and his legacy is easy to follow up on because he made life so easy for me. He loved me easy. He participated in our marriage so easily, and couldn't have a better friend.
I know. Here we go again. But I'm so glad that I got to meet you, and now every time I see a butterfly, I'm going to be thinking about Kevin.
This probably is him because, I'm super lucky and you guys are doing great work. Thank you for continuing to get the word out and just, keep up the good work and keep ALS in the front running and it'll be gone someday.
It will be. It will be. And we're all going to raise a glass and toast to Kevin and to Kevin, to Ken, to all the families that have lost loved ones with this. We're going to get there. We really are. We're going to get there.
Yeah, we are.
Lora, you are such a pleasure. And as you head out, I want you to know you are so inspiring. And I think, you're saying that you were lucky that Kevin chose you. I think it goes both ways because he knocked it out of the park with one of
thank you.
best, most amazing women. So yeah, you are so inspiring, your strength and how you've gotten through this not only one time, but 8, 9 times. I don't even know my own name at this point now. But you're amazing.
It's been a journey. Part of the grief and the healing is to talk about it, and you've made it really easy. And I appreciate season you for sure. Sam, you're always at the front there of the ALS Association, and you're a lifeline. And I would be so silly to not thank Peggy and Julie for everything too. And you guys are just amazing, and I'm happy you're part of my family.
We love you. So much.
And you know what? As the world starts to open back up and events start happening, I look forward to hugging you guys in person.
We will be hugging you and Kevin's fat head, hopefully
Exactly.
very soon.
All right, you guys.